Over my last 10 years coaching, I've been seeing the same killer mistakes again and again. It's as if everyone's hardwired to make these same mistakes, and I'm talking about catastrophic game losers, not minor inaccuracies. If you feel stuck and can't seem to improve, look no further, as it's likely these will apply to you. This is International Master Y of Chess, and today I'll be going over 10 game losing mistakes that every chess amateur makes. If you find these useful, please smash the like button and subscribe for more chess content. And before you watch the video, comment below with which mistake costs you the most games and why. The first thing I have to cover is how players zoom into one particular aspect and become blind to everything else. Tunnel vision can be broken down into 3 categories, each one being disastrous in its own way. First off, when there's action on one part of the board, players become so focused on that particular section they forget everything else. It's easy to completely blunder to long-range pieces, but even if you don't, you'll be playing terrible moves because you should be optimizing for all 64 squares, not a tiny battlefield. Secondly, when we see a particular idea or plan, players often become so obsessed with it, they miss all the other plans. I've even seen players miss one-move checkmates because they were tunneling in on a 4-step knight maneuver. Keep an open mind, be like John F. Kennedy. Finally, the clock is part of the game, but it's easy to forget the time situation when we're trying to find moves. From personal experience as a junior, I once had a winning position in a key game of the British Chess Championships, where literally any sensible move was winning, but I got so focused on finding the best move, I lost on time. The clock is part of the game, be aware of it at all times. The king is the end goal, so why aren't players protecting their bloody king? You wouldn't play football without a goalkeeper. I mean, most players understand the concept, but they have this habit of voluntarily moving their goalie and defenders away for no good reason. Keep the integrity of your back line, bring your midfielders and even strikers back to defend if needed. In chess terms, look to get castled if the center isn't safe. Try to keep your king's pawn shelter and bring in more pieces to defend when under attack. Speaking of pieces, why use 5 or 6 when you have 8? I've seen too many games when there's a forgotten rook, a lazy knight or a bad bishop, which would completely turn the tide of the game if activated, but they're kept dormant as sleeping beauties. Use all your pieces. Stop moving one piece multiple times in openings without good reason. In general, activating the least active piece gives the biggest improvement to your position. And don't forget, the king is also a piece. It's usually too dangerous to fight with him in the opening and middle game, but remember to use the king in endgames when he's an absolute beast. Chess isn't a game of chance, but it seems to be human nature to find a way to gamble. There's that voice in our head. Pick a move and hope for the best. Every time you don't calculate, you're basically gambling. Every time you blunder, it's because you were gambling and didn't calculate properly. You simply hoped your move was a 6 and not a 1, when in reality, we can use calculation to work out the 6s and 1s. Don't be lazy. Stop your gambling addiction. Calculate. Sometimes, we do have to take calculated risks when it's not possible to calculate everything. But that's different from doing zero calculation. Amateur players might not be great at calculating, but everyone has the capacity to look at least one move ahead to cut out crazy gambles and blunders. Next up, the classic tilt. The game's going smoothly, we've been playing beautifully to get a nice advantage, and then boom! We missed a simple move or tactic and suddenly the game is turned upside down. It happens to everyone and it feels terrible in the moment. And believe me, I know, throwing my last game to get Grandmaster was heart-crushing. But the game's not over until the fat lady sings. It's so easy to make more mistakes right after. In some cases, I've even seen players resign when the position was still winning. Take time to fix your mental. Slow down, take a deep breath, and clear your mind of the past. And then, put all your energy into finding the next best move and making the most of the situation. That's what Magnus Carlsen would do. There are times when we have to defend, but always reacting puts us on the back foot. More often than not, the best defense is a strong offense. so keep your eye out for opportunities to establish yourself as the alpha of the chessboard. Find those counterattacks where your opponent has to react to you. In this position, I had the black pieces against Grandmaster Matthew Sadler in the Four Nations Chess League. I was feeling pretty pleased with myself when I played Rook A3 attacking this pawn, with the idea that after white defends with, say, Bishop C4, I can continue the pressure and get the upper hand with Bishop A6. But Sadler just ignored me, playing F4, making a bigger threat to take my rook. And after I retreated, he continued the attack with E5. I still don't have time to capture this pawn because E6 followed by F5 is going to crush my king. So here I recapture on E5, and Sadler's genius attacking plan was F5. Now that the bishop is opened up and I don't have the E5 square for my knight. He went on to win the game thanks to the attack he created. The best defense is strong offense. Chess is all about decision making, and we choose between moves based on evaluations. But if we over-evaluate a position, we end up voluntarily going into bad and even lost positions. When we play weaker players, we get into a bad habit of over-evaluating because we can win bad positions. But when we meet better players, we get punished from those bad positions. So, be objective and realistic. Personally, this was a big problem for me when I went from being the top junior player in England, where I got away with many bad positions, to playing on the world stage as an underdog, where every bad position was brutal torture. Try to play stronger players so they kick your ass in bad positions and you learn your lesson. When we play stronger players, it's always a psychological challenge. It's not uncommon for the stronger player to blunder pieces outright, but their rookie opponent had so much respect they thought it was a trap and didn't take the piece. Trust in yourself, do the calculation, and if it looks good, take the material. Subconsciously, we also change our playstyle, often playing more passively, but we shouldn't, as this makes us play suboptimally and easier for the big guy to bully. Stick to your guns. Everyone is human, everyone makes mistakes, and everyone is beatable. Just make sure your opponent isn't called Alpha Zero. Next up, wasting tempo just couldn't be ignored. Every move is worth its weight in gold, but newbies have an affinity to moving aimlessly. More often than not, one tempo can be the difference between a win and a loss. So make a plan. It is better to have a bad plan than no plan. Debatable if your plan is really bad, but it's from Kasparov, so who are we to disagree? Every tempo should be used to try and improve your position. The one exception will be waiting moves, where we want to pass the tempo. And finally, even if you make huge improvements by getting rid of the last 9 mistakes from your game, cockiness can destroy you. We're outplaying the opponent, the position is winning, easy peasy. Our mind starts wandering. We get distracted with thoughts like, why don't we make a reality show where flat earthers have to find the edge of the world? But the game's not over until the fat lady sings. When we get cocky and overconfident, we stop calculating, we stop thinking logically, and it's super easy to blunder and throw. Keep your focus level at 100%. I make it a point to focus even more when I feel like I have a good position, having experienced some seriously horrendous throws as a kid. Okay guys, good luck crushing the unlucky noobs who haven't seen this video, and thanks for watching YF Chess. If you made it all the way here, let us know in the comments below which of these 10 mistakes you struggled the most with. And if you haven't already, check out these top 10 tips for instant improvement.